right, guys, welcome back. This is Of Stone and Clay, episode 83. We are here with Whitney Scott.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We've gotten rid of all your nerves, right? Are they gone?
You know, we're just going to have to see.
Okay. This is your first podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Whitney Scott is a life coach,
Yep.
almost nurse,
Yeah.
and a semi-new friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been fun getting to know you.
Yeah, what did we connected on Instagram, I think, 7 years ago or something.
Was it that long ago?
I don't know.
No, it wasn't that long.
It could have been
ago.
4
It's probably
or
like
5.
4 years ago. Yeah.
And then we recently decided let's meet.
Yeah, a lot of similar interests, which is fun.
Yeah. So thanks for being here. What is kind of the impetus for getting into life coaching?
Oh man.
Where does that start? Is there you probably kind of got to at least feel like your life's together to be a life coach, right?
Actually, it was the opposite when I started.
Okay.
So I love when people ask me this question. It was back in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
I had been listening to Jody Moore's life coaching podcast, Better Than Happy. And she is also a member of the Church of Jesus Christ. And I had been listening to her for 2 years at this point, and I was like, man, I love what she does. I would love to do this. And at the time, I was really struggling in the marriage that I was in and was, pondering on divorce. And she had helped me through a lot of major decisions at that time of my life. And fast forward, I had gotten divorced. I was still listening to her pretty regularly, but wasn't considering being a life coach. And I was in grad school at the U to become a speech language pathologist. And about halfway through the program, I decided I didn't want to do it anymore. So I dropped out. Terrifying decision. But so grateful I made that decision. And when I was like, well, I'm not in grad school anymore, having a crisis, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my moment. This is my chance to actually dive into life coaching. And I felt like a call to do it.
Yeah.
And so I signed up for a year-long program and fell in love with it, got certified. And honestly, at the time, I was not even so much thinking I want to be a coach and coach people. It was I want to learn the skills for myself.
Yeah, I want to be coached.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And because I had been in therapy my whole life, and therapy is great. They're just very...
Since
they're
birth?
You would think.
Dysfunctional baby?
No, I've been in therapy for years.
Yeah.
And life coaching is it's different. And I was just curious about it. And so got into it and got certified and realized I was good at it and got some clients. And then, here we are.
Cool. So what were the things that Jody kind of helped you with the most when you were struggling in your marriage?
She introduced Brooke Castillo, who is the creator of the Life Coach School, and she kind of made life coaching what it is today. I mean, aside from Tony Robbins and all.
Yeah, just more modern life coaching.
Right. And so Jody learned from her, and from Jody I learned about the thought model, which is that ultimately your thoughts create your results in life. And it was a very empowering realization where I was I am in control of my reality.
Yeah.
And that changed my life.
Yeah. So let's say I want you to life coach me.
Okay.
What is what's your main focus or goal? Is it happiness? Is it fulfillment? Is it purpose? Is it just getting on the right track and staying there? What's kind of the main?
Depends on the client.
Yeah.
Ultimately, my goal for my clients is for them to not need me anymore.
Yeah.
So, and that's also the same with therapy, but so usually I'll do a consultation with them where I chat with them and I ask them okay, what are your expectations from coaching? What do you think a life coach is? Because there's a lot of misconceptions about it.
Yeah.
And what do you think I can do for you? And then they'll explain to me, oh, I really need help with I'm going through a breakup and it's really tough on me. And I'm okay, this is what it's going to look like with me. And a lot of it is just a lot of thought work and you'd be surprised by how many things that are circumstances, like people will change into, like a lot of people who think like, oh, this thought that I have is a fact, where you kind of have to like, check them and be like, oh, that's actually, your thought, or like this thing is neutral, but it's the thought you have about this neutral thing that's creating this result for you,
Yeah.
So.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's fun.
So
It's a lot of problem solving.
Yeah. So, okay, what is like, because I feel like everybody deals with heartbreak, right? What is your go-to, like someone is going through it, they just recently had a horrible breakup. What's your go-to like mode of comfort or help or assistance in that time of trial? And you've been there too, obviously.
Yeah.
Or should we talk about your
so many
heartbreak
things
first?
come up. We could talk about it. I think like I'm really glad that we are now acknowledging the importance of accepting your feelings, like acknowledging like it's okay to feel this pain and to not like bury it. And yeah, I feel like society's done a really good job of like moving forward with like acknowledging the grief process and that it's real and valid. And that's like the biggest step that I try to teach my clients is like, let yourself feel the feelings. But it's hard because there's a fine line between like
wallowing.
Exactly. Yeah. And
I like to wallow a little bit.
Sometimes, every now and then, I'm gonna say it, every now and then it's okay to have a pity party.
No, I like to wallow for like a few weeks.
Okay.
That's
okay.
But it's not intense
what
wallowing.
What does it look like for you?
It's listening to really sad songs.
Okay. That's
It's maybe looking at old pictures. Maybe I shouldn't do that. That one's dark.
That's a tough one. Yeah. I usually advise against that.
Yeah, so would I.
But we're human.
Yeah. I think it's sad songs, sad movies, and just kind of. But for me, that's kind of like I want to feel these feelings and not, brush them under the rug. And so let me connect with other people that are in pain for a minute. Yeah. And
I think like, at least for me, like, cause I do the same where I'll listen to a lot of sad songs. Like I'll go on Spotify and I'll be like breakup songs, and part of that is it helps me feel validated and feel seen. And if you've ever heard the quote, people need to be loved, but they want to be seen more than they want to be loved. And I think that's true. Like, feeling seen and understood in that moment and how we are is like super empowering,
Well, breakups are weird because they feel so like you feel so exposed and you feel so like embarrassed. Even though like everyone goes through
there's nothing to be ashamed of, but
but
why is getting dumped so embarrassing?
It's because it's like you're telling everyone, this person I was dating, you remember him? He didn't like me. And he chose someone else, or he chose
to be alone over being with me.
He decided that I wasn't a good option. And I think that's an embarrassing thing to admit to yourself, let alone everyone in your life.
It'll bring up a lot of wounds for most people. So.
Do you feel like if you go through a breakup, it can kind of bring up old wounds from older breakups? Do you feel like sometimes they can kind of stockpile?
It depends on the relationship. But I think some of them do bring up like, oh my gosh, I'm having like a flashback to like, this is identical to how I felt when this guy dumped me or whatever. And sometimes they'll just create new ones, So sometimes they'll remind me of past breakups.
So how hard was it to wiggle out of your marriage? It sounds like for a while maybe you knew it wasn't working.
So my situation, what I feel like is incredibly unique, especially being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ. My ex-husband is a great man. Like I have nothing bad to say about him. I think so highly of him, and I understand the reasons that I married him. I was really young. I was 19 when we got engaged, and he treated me so well. But we were very, very different. And
personality-wise?
Yes, personality-wise. and grew up differently. And basically, like, the only thing we had in common was our faith.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, that's still very much a priority for me
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and a spouse. But I realized it wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have so much love for him. And he's doing well. He's pretty sure he's almost engaged. And
Yeah, yeah.
I'm super happy for him. But it was really hard because I felt like I didn't have reasons to justify getting divorced, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Because
like,
you weren't like mistreated or anything.
right. I'm like, he actually treats me really well.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
like anyone would be lucky to be with him. And,
Yeah.
and I just felt like I was incredibly selfish, and I held a lot of guilt and a lot of shame for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm finally healed from that, where I've forgiven myself. And I actually like am really proud of myself, because it takes so much courage to choose divorce, you know, jumping into like the unknown,
Yeah.
when I did have like a good man,
Mm-hmm.
but I just like, we were so different. And I had prayed so much about it and fasted and gone in the temple. And the Lord was always like, it's your decision.
Yeah.
It's your decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like frustrated, because I'm like, you have to have an opinion on this.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is not some like little thing. I'm like, there's no way you don't have an opinion.
Yeah.
But every time it was like, it's your decision. And finally I had received a priesthood blessing. And in it, the Lord reminded me of like my agency. And he kind of chastised me. He was like, stop asking me. I've told you, it's your decision. And so finally I was like, okay, like, you've told me it's my decision, and I'm going to choose divorce. And it was so hard. I obviously did not want to hurt my ex-husband. And
Was he blindsided?
no, he wasn't blindsided. We had separated a couple times, and we had been going to couples counseling for a long time. And he knew I was going to my own therapy as well. And I think a lot of it was that I was so young, and I had felt like, you know, I didn't know who I was yet. And I know that sounds so cliche, but
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's so true. And so yeah, that was a unique situation. We stayed friends after, which I think is really rare,
Yeah.
but big blessing. And yeah.
Did you feel like maybe being so young, you just didn't really know what like being super in love was? Or were you
Yeah.
super in love for a minute?
So no, I wasn't. Yeah, I had never fallen in love with him. I loved him.
Yeah. Did you think you had?
No.
Yeah.
No, I knew that I hadn't.
Uh-huh.
But I also was like, it's so funny, because at the time I thought I was so mature. I was like, you know, like, I know that I'm not in love with him, but I'm choosing a man that will like, that's more important than being in love, because being in love fades. And, you know, a lot of
Like
people
that
who
sentence.
fall in love, well, we'll get into that later.
Okay.
But at the time I was like, oh, like, you know, like the honeymoon phase, like that always fades for everyone. And it can come back.
Yeah.
But at some point, the mundane reality of life hits, and sometimes life can be boring, and that's, you know, how it is. But I don't think it has to be.
Yeah.
But I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Oh, being in love. So yeah, I thought that I was like being, you know, I was so mature about this decision, and I was like, you know, I'm picking a man that will always be faithful to me. And at the time, like, there were things going on in, like, you know, my family and friends' lives that a lot of the women were getting cheated on. And that was like just constantly right here, you know, just like, oh, so-and-so. And so I was like, okay, my husband will never do that. And so that was like a lot of that. And turns out falling in love is important.
It turns out, yeah.
Who'da thunk? And yeah, so we're still on that journey, figuring that out.
Yeah. So I know we talked about this a few weeks ago, but I can't remember. I think you said for you have a few pillars that you feel like you need to have in a relationship.
Yeah.
What are those pillars?
Yeah. So the first one, shouldn't come as a surprise, but I'm looking for someone who is equally converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and to the gospel of Jesus Christ. I feel like sometimes people separate them.
Yeah.
And that's okay, but that's not what I'm looking for.
Right.
And another one is I need someone that I can have intellectually stimulating conversation with.
Are these in order?
I'm a big no.
Okay.
I'm a big deep thinker.
Yeah.
So I need that, deep conversation with my partner.
Yeah.
And this one, I feel like I've always kind of known, but I didn't realize the gravity it had for me. And it's someone that makes me laugh and that I make him laugh.
Yeah.
So humor is huge for me. And I've only like noticed how important that is for me in like the recent year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's really big. Like I need fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think sometimes like I'm very much like a type A person. And I
Yeah.
think growing up, people would probably like see me as like a more serious person.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, I'm actually like, I just need someone that can like loosen me up a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah,
and bring out my fun side. And then I feel like that's like who I really am.
Right.
And we're still like working on like why I have that guard up, probably childhood stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then the last one is, obviously I need to be physically attracted to him. So
Yeah. Okay. So how much does, all of those play a little bit of a part, but how important is just general personality?
You mean like how is it split in the pillars or just like?
Just how important is that to you? Like,
it's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And I think like, I've dated a lot of different types of people and I'm learning like what fits best for me. And personality is huge.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like, I don't know, for me, personality is just absolutely number one. And spirituality, intellect, humor, all these things kind of play a part of someone's personality. But
yeah, for sure.
to me, it's like, if you just don't love hanging out with somebody, like, what do you,
Yeah.
what do you,
Kind of important.
yeah,
maybe.
but I
don't
think
know.
a lot of times people put like so much importance on almost like these resume items.
Right.
Like,
Do they have the prerequisites to be?
yeah,
your
and
partner?
especially sometimes for girls, like they put a high priority on, safety and how can this guy provide for me and establish a good family and a good home for me and all these things that are super important. But without a personality, your relationship's going to die.
Yeah, that's true. Well, actually, honestly, I feel like it depends on the person. Some people that works for them, that's not what you and I want, but like some people it's like, okay, that's what they're looking for,
I guess
they might not feel fulfilled in other areas or maybe emotionally supported, but at least they'll have their dream car.
Oh, kill me. That's horrible.
Right? Yeah.
So do you think you've, have you had a great love in your life?
No. Which is so sad. I'm 28. Like, I should by now, right?
Do you think you've come really close?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have.
So you've gotten a glimpse
Yes.
of the golden goose.
And we hate the glimpse.
Oh, we hate the glimpse.
We hate the glimpse.
The glimpse is almost worse.
Because now the bar is set even higher. And I'm like, wow, okay, that's what that is what like being in love is supposed to feel like.
Yeah,
or,
and then and you're like, oh, man, I was getting flack for being picky before, but now I realize, now I've been to the mountaintop.
Yes. Now my pickiness was validated.
Yeah.
And it still didn't work. And I'm like, but I was really close.
Yeah. But it's kind of cool because when you get that glimpse, even though the glimpse, we'll call it, can be the most painful thing.
Yeah.
But it's a reminder that like, oh, I can have that.
Yeah.
It's attainable. It's out there. It's not just a fairy tale that I conjured up in my head. Like I can have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really important for me. I grew up, my mom is she's interesting in the way that she views love. And I don't know if it's like a generational thing. I think it might be. But she had a big influence on like, oh, like falling in love is overrated, and my parents had a great relationship.
Yeah.
And I say had because my dad passed away.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
very much, great marriage. And but they married later in life and I'm like, I'm going to have a different path. Like I want like I do want the fairy tale but that might look different, for different people. So,
yeah. And some people are more pragmatic.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I would rather have like, I would rather be crazy, stupid, ridiculously in love and have kind of a crappy like life than to have like the most stable, secure, like easygoing life and be kind of in love.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, me too.
So, but but yeah, you have to find somebody that wants those same things,
Yeah.
you know? Um, okay, this might sound like a trite question, but I want you to dig deep for me.
I'm into this. What?
How important is joy in your life?
Mm. Um. Well, we know from the Book of Mormon that's the purpose of life,
Mhm.
and men are that we might have joy. And I have dealt with depression and anxiety
Mhm.
for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And this was always really hard for me because I was like, why can I not feel this joy? Like it's always like happiness, like very temporary. And it always seemed like I couldn't attain this joy. And then and then like going into life coaching, it was also really hard learning that my thoughts were creating my results because I'm like, okay, am I responsible for my depression and lack of joy? And then I realized, okay, that goes into a whole other thing, and that's totally different because there is like, the physiology of the brain is different for some people.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you have to take medication, and it's okay if you like need to go to therapy, and but joy is huge for me, and I think there's so many ways you can find joy, but I think ultimately, like for me, it has truly been strengthening my relationship with Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
And he is the reason that we can feel that,
Yeah.
even if you feel like you haven't felt it yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
What about you? Actually, I want to hear your answer to
Um,
that.
Yeah, for me, I think I start to emotionally spiral if I feel like I can't get a grasp on joy. So I think I hold it at a high premium.
Okay.
Um, and I agree. I think, great, everlasting, eternal joy, there's really specific ways to find that.
Yeah.
But I also think you can be really connected with God, really spiritual, and still really struggle to find joy.
Yeah.
And so for me, I feel like I have to be doing a lot of things, and I have to be finding joy in many, many places, because I think maybe my default setting isn't joy. Unfortunately,
I would agree with that.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I don't think I struggle too much with depression, but I think sometimes the clouds come in.
Yeah.
But
It's more to life.
yeah, but yeah, so for me, like, I just try to suck joy out of everything. Like, I try to not have anything where I can't find joy in it. Like, if it's a job I hate, I try to like, well, I got to find joy in my friendships there, or I got to like, I don't know, I'm a big proponent of, if you're having like a really bad day, find some way to make it a little bit better. Like, go treat yourself to dinner.
Yeah.
Go do something fun for an hour that gets your mind off it, and find some joy. And I think sometimes we think like we don't deserve it, because we're I don't know, we're being selfish, or like we're working towards something, so I don't have time to go reward myself for bad behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think sometimes,
And who's to say that it's bad?
yeah, but yeah, I've had days where I'm like, man, I've been so lazy today, and I've got nothing done, and I'm no closer to what I want than I was yesterday, but I got to get out of this funk somehow. So I'm going to go treat myself to dinner.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
Part of something I've learned is the power of gratitude and the power of being present. And part of being present is treating yourself. It's like, okay, I'm going to go to Harmon's. I'm going to get my favorite flavor of ice cream, and I am going to like go all in on eating this stupid pint of ice cream, right? Yeah. And enjoy it. And like, some could say that's a bad decision because you're eating ice cream. Yeah. But that, like, sometimes it gives you joy if you're going all in and you're intentional and you're present. And then gratitude is obviously huge. Like, there have been so many studies on the power of gratitude and how it transforms your life. Yeah. And that I've seen that in my own life. So
what's the way you like to express gratitude or feel it?
So the easiest way is to have a gratitude journal. You can do a physical one, or, in your notes app. And then over time, I think just like day to day, just start practicing like being observant and you're like, oh, I'm really grateful that like my car has heated seats. Like
Yeah.
I am so grateful for that. And yeah, just practicing little moments, and then you'll start to see lots of tender mercies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to just, I think being observant is such a huge part of it.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I like to try and just verbalize moments where I'm feeling joy and moments where I'm feeling especially grateful. Because it's easy to like be like, oh man, I'm feeling this right now,
Mm-hmm.
but that just goes away so quick.
I know.
And so
Yeah.
I think verbalizing it kind of helps it linger around.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
makes it more real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
You've traveled a bunch.
Yeah.
How many countries have you been to?
I am at 46 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you have like a top 3 countries?
Oh man, this is such a tough question because I love so many of them for such different reasons.
Yeah.
The prettiest country I've been to is Switzerland by far. And I love Argentina, but I have a soft spot in my heart because I lived with the family there for 2 weeks, and I just love the people there.
Yeah.
But the one that was the most surprising for me was Thailand. Went there 2 years ago, and before I didn't really have much desire for Asian countries. I don't love the food. I didn't have like the draw. I usually love like, Europe. But I was like, okay, I've heard great things. So we went to Thailand, Singapore, and Bali, and it was the best trip. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I could totally live in Thailand.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Highly recommend if you haven't been. But
what for you is like, why do you think it's important to travel?
Oh my gosh, opens your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes, like I went to Guatemala about a month ago, and I just need that reminder to go to a third world country to be reminded how grateful we are to live in a free country that is a first world country. We have access to clean water and like all of the many amenities that we have. So yeah, it definitely opens your eyes. I think it helps you connect with a lot of different people. And lots of memories, like lots of just creating new memories, it's just always an adventure.
Yeah. It's funny. My buddy went to Pakistan a few weeks ago and he went there for work, but he was there for like 10 days. And he said he came back and the next day, like we hung out with his family and some friends and we were just like outside playing pickleball and just having fun. And he just like had his phone inside and was just sitting in a chair, just like enjoying the beautiful moment. And he said he was just like, I just forgot how like grateful I am to live where I do. And so he's like, usually I'm just like on my phone or I want to get next game or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, I was just sitting there, just happy to be where I was.
In the moment.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Yeah. I've never been to the Middle East, but I've been to Israel, if that counts as the Middle East, right? Yeah. Been to Israel. That's a little different, but that was awesome. But yeah, that's amazing. I think also like one thing you learn is like when you travel with people, it's a great way to see them how they problem solve. My mom's always like counseling me. She's like, before you marry someone, make sure you've traveled with them and have experiences where like unexpected problems arise, and you see like how they handle it. So
how they are when they're really tired.
Yes.
They've been on a long
Are they
flight.
high maintenance or are they chill? Can they go with the flow? Do they help you plan?
Yeah, totally.
Really, really interesting.
Especially a road trip sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. Oh man, any kind of travel. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me a little bit about losing your dad. That was what, a year ago ish?
It was September.
Oh wow.
8-9 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still one of the hardest things I have had to go through. Grief. I've learned a lot about grief, and
was he the first like person really close to you lost?
I mean, yes. I lost my grandparents at a relatively young age. But yeah, I was really, really tight with my dad. He and I were buddies, and he had been sick for 10 years. It's been a while since I've had to talk about it again. Yeah, so he was diagnosed with dementia and Parkinson's when I was 18.
Oh, wow.
I was really young. I had just graduated high school, and it was the summer I left for college. And he had gotten a lot sicker when I came home early from my mission. And he declined really fast, like within the first, like he'd gotten diagnosed that summer, and we were told that he had like 6 months to live.
Oh, wow.
Like, and we were like, oh my gosh, like what? And at the time, like they didn't know like what form of dementia it was, and all these things. And it was a long 10 years. I mean, we were really grateful that he, hadn't died that quickly.
Yeah.
But it was also a very, very complicated grief process with our whole family.
Yeah. Because you kind of start to lose him in bits.
Yes. So he couldn't walk, and he stopped talking pretty quickly. And obviously with dementia, you forget things. And luckily he never forgot us. But he would forget, like, he would forget I was living in Utah, and he would forget that I was divorced. And he'd ask, where's Jordan and all this stuff. Or he'd think I was still in high school. Yeah. And, you just kind of have to like go along with it, or occasionally you'll remind him. But I think one thing that I tend to forget was how hard it was. I think in the beginning he was humiliated because in the beginning he was aware enough to know like something's wrong. Like I think he was embarrassed of him forgetting things, and so I think that like propelled him more into like not wanting to talk to people. Yeah, he stopped recognizing people from church. And he loved driving, and obviously he couldn't drive. Yeah. And so this poor man had like so much taken away from him, and not once had I ever heard him complain. He never complained. And that shows his character so much. And I will always look up to him in so many ways. I was in Lake Powell, actually, when I found out he passed away.
Oh, wow.
And that was a whole other interesting experience. But thank you. My dad's favorite place in the world is Moab. None of us understood why, because we obviously love traveling, but Moab, we would road trip from Ohio to Moab like every year. Wow. And he, we'd take out our van, and he would just love driving that van, and just loved the Red Rock. And I thought it was very fitting that I was in Lake Powell with beautiful Red Rock. And it was probably like 5 a.m. And I had found out, and was able to just sit on the pier by myself and watch sunrise. And it's a really beautiful experience. And he's with me a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so cool.
He's with me a lot.
Did you feel like, man, 10 years of that illness, do you feel like, what did that do to your like relationship with your mom and your siblings?
That's a great question. No one ever asks me that. I think, so we have a blended family. My 3 oldest siblings are half brothers, and they are my dad's sons from his previous marriages. And we all grieved very differently. I think for me, it was by far the hardest because I was the closest with him. And sometimes it felt hard. I felt like I couldn't talk to my other siblings about it because they, within like 5 years, they're like, oh, we've already grieved it. Like, we just, we're ready for him to go. And I was not at that point yet. And, but now it's definitely brought us, super close. And if you think about it, like logistically, we have no reason to all stay together because he was the one that brought us together, but I was just in Disney with my oldest brother like a month ago, and we're all still very close. I mean, we're a family, and it's definitely strengthened my relationship with my mom a lot. Like she and I are very different, pretty opposite in the way that we operate. And with losing dad, it has definitely strengthened my relationship with my mom for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's interesting. I even saw like, when my grandma passed away, like I think it's been like 8 years or something. It's been a while, but I like even to this day, all those years later, I feel just a little bit closer with my cousins and my aunts and uncles
yeah.
because we just have that one thing that we miss and
Mm-hmm.
we can talk about and we can
Yeah.
relate to. And it's funny because it was always there.
Right.
We always had that connection, but yeah, I think grief can bring people together.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting how loss like can create power in
Yeah.
that sense and connection in a way. So
Yeah. So you said you learned a lot about grief. And there was obviously a lot of grieving during the illness, but after he passed, um, did the grief kind of take new form?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it's so interesting because I feel like there's such different forms of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's just so not linear, so
Mm-hmm.
as much as you hope it to be. And it's like so normal to, you have the stages of grief, you have, I think it starts with denial
Mm-hmm.
and then anger and then like bargaining and then depression and then on to acceptance.
Yeah.
And it's totally normal to fluctuate between the stages and you may not even go through those in that order.
Yeah.
And one thing that I was most surprised was the anger that I felt. I wasn't expecting to feel the anger because he had been sick for so long.
Yeah.
And we always knew, like, he had stayed alive actually a lot longer than we were told. And I was shocked at the anger that I felt. And I was like frustrated with myself that I felt this anger.
At the anger.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I really had to learn that, like, it's okay to feel these negative feelings. And I didn't want to feel that, no one wants to feel that. And, but it was a lot of anger of like, my dad had already missed so much of my life, like he will have missed my entire adult life.
Yeah.
And, now it was like the new form of grief of like, okay, he officially will not, meet your husband. He will not meet your kids. Yeah. And I felt jealous that my siblings got to have that with their spouses and their kids.
Yeah.
And in a sense, like, yeah, it's unfair, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And just letting myself feel those feelings,
And it's probably hard because those feelings you had, like, you probably don't want to tell anybody, like, I'm jealous that like those are kind of, but they're such normal feelings, but they're kind of dark.
Yeah, they are kind of dark and they make you feel selfish.
Yeah.
But have to recognize that it doesn't take away from their experience.
Yeah.
Like my nieces and nephews, their experiences with Poppy Scott, like that's theirs and that's sacred and beautiful and special. And I'm just grateful that we believe in the next life and that families are together forever, because I'm like, okay, someday,
Yeah. So I always wonder this, and I try to approach it just prayerfully and following my gut. But whenever someone has somebody super close that passes away, I always like want to reach out, right? But I also know they're probably getting bombarded with, I'm sorry, is there anything we can do? Like, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for your loss. And just from someone that's gone through it, what would you suggest people do?
Reach out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's funny because I actually think a lot of people think that, and so they don't.
Yeah.
Because they just assume that that's already happening. And this is in no way to like have a pity party, let's say. But
we can have one,
not a lot of people reached out actually.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was a very isolating time for me, both intentionally and not. Like I, was grieving, but I also was like, oh, everyone has their own lives going on, and yeah, I think everyone kind of has the same mentality of like, oh, I'm sure like she's taken care of.
Yeah.
But never assume that.
Right.
Don't assume it. Just I might as well be safe and reach
Yeah.
out, you know?
Yeah.
If you get that inkling to just
what I like to do is if I feel compelled,
right.
I'll usually send a text, and I'll usually say like, please don't feel like you need to respond.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm sure some people are just so overwhelmed that they're not looking at their phone. And then when they come to again in a few weeks, they're overwhelmed and maybe don't want to respond to 100 texts. And so, but it's just sending your love and support.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But I've had like a friend of mine lost her mother a couple of years ago, and it was a weird thing where it's like, she was married now, and so we don't really hang out very much.
Yeah.
But I love her, and we're good friends. But I'm like, yeah, I think it would mean a lot to her. So I send her a text, and like 2 weeks later she responded and said it meant a lot to her.
Yeah.
But I didn't go in with any expectations. Like,
right. Yeah.
Because sometimes it's funny. Sometimes almost selfishly, you're like, you want to be the loving, kind person that sends a sweet text, and you want the person
to see it.
Yeah, you want someone to be like, oh, that meant so much to me, because that feels good.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's that's good advice though, I think. And I think that goes for anything. Like, when in doubt, just send your love.
Yeah, never suppress a generous thought.
Yeah,
it's a good motto.
I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I wrote this down because I saw this on one of your captions. I don't know if you even will remember it, but I really liked it. Especially as I'm getting more into like podcasting and social media and stuff. Like, the word influencer can be kind of icky, right?
Yeah.
But I love that you said we are all influencers.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that thought process.
Yeah. So I don't even know what post that's from. I love that. Yeah, we're all influencers. And, you have your circle of friends, and you obviously, we learn that you become most like the 5 people that you spend your time with.
Yeah.
But then you also have social media, and you have strangers that you walk into, at the grocery store. And I just like a smile. Like, I know for me, a smile from a stranger means a lot to me. And it just immediately lifts me up a little bit, And yeah, I think we may forget how much influence we do have on other people, and just little things make a big difference.
Yeah.
So.
Is there anybody in your life you think has actually influenced you a lot that they probably have no idea they have?
Ooh, I'm trying to think of like people that I personally know, not like, podcasters or like, leaders, I'll have to think about that one.
Yeah.
I actually don't know if I have an answer for that, because I feel like I'm actually pretty vocal. I feel like I will show my appreciation if like they have influenced me. I feel like I try to communicate that and thank them, like, hey, you really taught me this important lesson of da 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 da.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say no.
Good. That's good. Yeah, I think I strive to do the same thing, but I think probably there's some people like when I was growing up that just kind of seeing their example from afar influenced me a lot. Some teachers, some coaches, some like friends, older brothers, some friends' parents, people that just kind of, and I had great examples in my home, but just to see, when you see it in other people, it becomes more real, because your home life is just so what you're used to. And so, yeah, when you see it kind of expressed in different ways, like sometimes it hits different.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah. Okay, I want to read this quote to you.
Okay.
And I want to hear your thoughts on it. All of your thoughts. So this is a quote kind of about our destiny and our potential.
Okay.
And it's by David Thewlis. He is an actor. He said, "Do you think that the amoeba ever dreamed that it would evolve into the frog?" Of course it didn't. And when that first frog shimmied out of the water and employed its vocal cords in order to attract a mate or to retard a predator, do you think that frog ever imagined that that incipient croak would evolve into all the languages of the world, into all the literature of the world? Of course it didn't. And just as that froggy could never possibly have conceived of Shakespeare, so we can never possibly imagine our destiny.
I think that is true on a lot of accounts, but I also think that kind of how we talked about the glimpse of, being in love, I think we also have a glimpse of our potential.
Yeah.
But again, it's a tiny, tiny, tiny glimpse.
When do you think we get those glimpses?
When?
Yeah.
I think it's different for everyone.
Yeah. When do you get them?
Well,
when you can kind of see the God in yourself.
Yeah,
you
it's
can
when I'm in the temple.
Really?
Honestly.
Yeah.
I feel like it's such like a classic answer, but the temple really teaches you about the eternity and the purpose of this life and our potential to become greater than we can imagine. And I'm constantly reminded of that. Also, the scriptures teach us that, and little moments with the Spirit, the Lord will teach us or remind us, like, this is how I see you. And I, sometimes you have to pray and ask Heavenly Father, like, I need a reminder, like, how do you see me?
Yeah.
Because I am struggling, to like love myself and to see the good parts of me. And he may answer you immediately. He may answer you bit by bit, and it might feel delayed, but it'll come.
Yeah.
And for me, that's been my experience of getting little baby glimpses.
Yeah.
Of who I am and who I can be.
I love a baby glimpse.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite thing about yourself?
Oh my gosh. I'm picking between two qualities. That's tough. I have a really big heart, and a lot of that I owe to the Savior. So I think for me, it's that if I were to die today, I would want people to remember Whitney Scott by, she loved Jesus Christ, and she showed that by loving others.
Yeah. What's your favorite quality that you think you got from your dad, or that your dad sort of instilled in you?
My dad was a very diligent man. He was very diligent and really responsible.
Yeah.
So probably those qualities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What's advice you'd give to sweet, tender 18-year-old Whitney?
I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of her.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say to 18-year-old Taylor?
Gosh, how much time do I have? Do I just have one sentence?
Long counsel, yeah.
Or do I have like a sit down? Do I have dinner with myself?
Seriously, no. One thing.
One thing?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Maybe to just to appreciate everything more. And to not worry about pain, and don't worry about the hurt, and to know that it's just part of life, and it'll come and it'll go, and it'll make you stronger, and it'll make you more beautiful, and it'll make it easier for you to empathize with people, and it'll make it easier for you to connect with people, and to not view it as a punishment or just so tragic, but to just view it as part of the journey, and to along the way just try to appreciate every little thing you have, because a lot of it, will vanish, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's deep. That's
Yeah.
good. Pain can be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that's sometimes a horrible thing to tell somebody that's experiencing pain.
Yeah.
But I think
It's a time and a place.
yeah, there's a time and a place, but I think after after the pain has sort of evanesced a little bit, you can see with fresher eyes that it's probably made you a better person. But it has the ability to make you a worse person and make you bitter and make you resentful. And so that's that's something that I would try to, if I could give advice to somebody, I would try to instill in them that, like, yeah, listen, life is going to attack you from every angle, and some people get attacked way more than others, and that's not fair, but so what?
Yeah. That's how you tell someone's character, is how do they deal? There's no question people are going to be given hard things, you know, but their character will show you, how do they deal with it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's easy, like, I don't even blame people, but I do think it's easy to fall into that trap of bitterness and resentment, and we all deal with it a little bit, but to fully go down that road is just misery.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. It's the ego.
Yeah. The ego is a bad thing.
Yeah.
What is your relationship like with your ego, you think?
Working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think
I think my ego used to be a lot bigger.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And learn to tame it a little bit and just, practice humility.
Yeah.
And yeah.
How do you tame a big ego?
Know that when it comes to dealing with people, a lot of things that people do have nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to remind myself. And maybe that sounds like an egotistical thing to say. Like, it's not about me. Yeah. But I think, like, when you get hurt, be like, this doesn't have to do with, because I think the ego, when the ego gets hurt, that's like comes from pride.
Yeah. Yeah.
And self-love plus humility. It's a hard balance.
Do you think your ego is affected much during breakups? Do you think it takes a hit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the biggest one for sure. Yeah. That I'm not good enough comes back up. Yeah.
Yeah, here's what's so frustrating about breakups. It's like, it's easy to tell yourself a lot of, like, lovely little platitudes when you're going through it, but it's also easy to be like, yeah, but at the end of the day, I literally just wasn't good enough for this other person. Like, you're like, the
reality was,
you can say the timing was bad, or it's not the right person, or it's not about me, it's about them. But then it's like the other voice is saying, yeah, but if you were a better option for them,
if you had these, XYZ qualities, they would want you.
Yeah. Yeah. And the tough part, I think, is sometimes you don't know what those XYZs are.
Yeah.
Because usually
sometimes they don't even know.
Yeah. And usually when someone breaks up with you, they don't tell you precisely why they're breaking up with you. They give you kind of a roundabout, nicer, less harsh answer.
Yeah. Spare your feelings.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's better or worse. But
I think it depends.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten a full answer, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I did.
Was it worse or better? Maybe worse in the moment, but better.
It was better.
Yeah.
It didn't leave me questioning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the healing process is a little quicker that way. It might feel like heavier at first, but it's not dragged out as like, oh, like, what if I was this? And it helps you be a little more authentic. Be like, like, I accept that, like, this is what he was looking for, but this is who I am. Yeah. And there are things that I can work on and things I can strengthen, but, like, as far as, like, who I am as a person, like,
yeah, it's funny. I was about to say, I think that's one of the hardest parts of breaking up with somebody is kind of that unknown, right? But I realized, like, there was this girl that I broke up with that it was very mutual, and we just were both kind of realizing that we are not compatible, even though we're crazy about each other and love spending time together and get along and all these great things, but there were just a couple things that weren't clicking. And that was really hard because I just grown to care about her so much.
Yeah.
And it was almost like maybe a little bit like your marriage, where I was like, I don't have a good reason to break.
Yeah.
Like I could spend every day with her and be happy, but like here's the thing, there's kind of maybe a ceiling to our happiness because of our incompatibilities. And so I didn't have any unknowns after we broke up. That wasn't an issue, but it was just like, yeah, kind of mourning.
But then it's hard because you go into like fix the problem mode. Like,
yeah,
okay.
well, and that's what I did for a while.
Right, yeah.
Right. And then I think we both did, and it was just like, yeah, this isn't
gonna work.
Yeah. And that's hard too.
It's tough.
Yeah.
You know, breakups just suck.
Yeah.
No matter the kind.
Dang it.
They're just hard.
I've never had one that was like, this was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did this.
That was really easy. No.
I actually had a girl one time, and we were never super serious. We had been talking for like a month or so. But we kind of had a phone call where like we didn't actually end things, but after we both hung up, we were like, did we just break up? Like, you know what I mean? Because it was kind of like, we kind of realized we were just at an impasse.
Yeah.
And, but then it's funny, she sent me a text afterwards and was like, and we text back and forth and kind of just ended things. And then she was like, this might sound weird, but that was like the best breakup I've ever had.
Did you agree?
I don't know. It was one of those where I was like, yeah, I don't think we should keep going now, but I was
but
just
still
sad.
bummer.
I was just sad, kind of just felt kind of defeated. But it was loving, and there was no like
no animosity.
Yeah. But yeah, I still felt icky.
It's hard when sometimes it's harder when there's no animosity. Yeah. Like I want to like just like this person alive,
well,
you know, like
and it's easy to go back to that too.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I know it's not toxic over here. I can try this again.
Yeah.
Because it's darkness out here.
Yeah. But eventually that becomes toxic, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, just a couple more questions.
Yeah.
What is, you said you might want to consider a podcast in the future,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, what is one question you have for me?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of so many now.
You can ask a couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was one big lesson you learned from your hardest heartbreak?
Oh gosh. Okay, I'm going there right now, and it's a dark place.
Yes.
Can somebody hold my hand? I think the biggest thing was, like we talked about, was that glimpse, right? Learning that I can actually have everything I want. And that doesn't mean like I find the perfect person and I'm never unsatisfied with anything they do, and they have a perfect mind and perfect body.
Yeah.
Right. But it's realizing that I'm worthy of really great, really soul expanding love. And I don't think I ever felt especially unworthy of it. But I think when you get that glimpse of it, it really helps you set your standards higher and set your bar higher, and which can be tough, and annoying.
Yeah, I know.
But I think I learned that I think oddly, even though I got deeply rejected, I think oddly it gave me a lot of confidence.
Oh, I love that.
Because I was like, listen, I went 12 rounds with the heavyweight champion. Like, I can hang. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I got defeated in the final
It'll
round.
never be as bad as that.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
No, but from a standpoint, a confidence standpoint, like I felt like I was there with the best. I could hang with the best. And yeah, I got defeated in the final round, but like I don't have to be scared to get in the ring again, you know.
You became more capable.
Because I wasn't, I wasn't fighting, I wasn't punching out of my weight. And again, I don't know that I ever really felt insecure or unworthy of those things, but yeah, it was just kind of a reaffirmation that, yeah, I can have the great love of my life. I don't know.
Okay, follow-up question.
Yeah.
You say that you can have the great love of your life. Do you think that you will?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I do.
I love that. I think you would too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I've just felt sort of in my bones that like it'll happen and everything will be okay.
Yeah.
And I think, okay, this might sound weird or self-aggrandizing, but I feel like I have a really high and deep capacity for joy. And I don't know that everyone does. I think everyone has some capacity for it, but I think I have a really, really great capacity for joy.
It's a beautiful gift.
Yeah. So I think, I think I'll be.
And think how much that's going to bless the lives of your future wife, and if you guys have children, and me sitting here talking to you.
Yeah.
That's beautiful to share that.
Yeah. And I think when you witness people that are like truly deeply in love, like, don't you feel like it kind of puts a pep in your step?
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. Like even if they're just complete strangers, but you see how in love they are, you're kind of like, oh yeah.
That's cute. Yeah. It's
like,
real. It
yeah,
does
it
exist.
exists. Like,
I feel like sometimes you'll have people and they'll be like, ew, like gross, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what is wrong with you? Like,
No,
this
I'm
is
here for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
we love it. We love to see it.
I saw this funny TikTok yesterday where it was like this teenage girl and she's like, your parents have been in love your whole life when this is your reaction. And they were like, the parents were just being silly and were like wrestling.
Yeah.
And she's just like on her phone.
Like
can't be bothered.
Typical mom and dad. Yeah.
Yeah. But just the fact that she was like, yeah, this is always them.
Yeah.
You
Just
know?
not phased.
Yeah. But I love that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal, man.
I love when I see older couples, even not super old, but they've been married 10, 20, 30 years and they're just teasing each other.
Yeah.
And they're laughing at
so
each other.
playful with each other.
Yeah, they're playful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think playfulness is a huge, huge part of a relationship.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't have it, like it can turn into this like business agreement that you're in. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Ugh.
It's boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so important. Do you ever find yourself, or have you in the past found yourself needing to like, oh, I should like hold back a little bit from dreaming big because for fear of like, what if it doesn't happen?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But I think in the last year or two, I have let that fallacy perish.
Good. Good.
Yeah. But I think it's hard because I think a lot of external voices are kind of nudging you and telling you that your dreams are too big.
Like, oh, be realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the big one.
And it's funny because I'll tell you what, the people that don't tell me that sort of thing are the people that have dreamt big themselves and have these beautiful, rich relationships.
Yeah.
It's people that are in kind of unhappy marriages and have kind of settled in a lot of ways in their life that are like, bro, you can't have all those things.
Yeah.
You know?
They're like, why not?
And
These
I'm
people
like,
do.
yeah, I'm like,
and how is that any less realistic? Because that is their reality. It's literally, it is realistic because it's happening.
Yeah. But yeah, it's tough. I think sometimes as a single person, you almost aren't allowed to have an opinion on
Yeah.
marriage.
Yeah.
You can have both. You were married and you're single.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like some of my friends, they're like, well, bro, you can't, like, that's not how it works.
But you've also been in relationships. So
Yeah.
who's,
Yeah. And I've seen relationships that are, they're not like that.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm not here to hold back.
We're not.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I had decided a long time ago, like, I realized like I would actually rather be single for the rest of my life than be in like a marriage where I felt like I was settling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was like a big like aha,
Mhm.
moment for me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I think as you get older and have more experiences, you have a different understanding of what settling means.
Yeah, for sure.
I think when I was younger, it was maybe a little more superficial.
Mhm.
Like it was like my girl needs to look like this.
Yes.
And she
Yeah.
needs to like have all these qualities that I think are important.
Mhm.
And that's shifted a little bit. And I still like we talked about, like I think attraction and all these things are super important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just put a higher premium on personality and playfulness and all these things that really matter to me.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's great. We love learning.
We love it. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Awesome. Well, any other questions?
Not right now.
Okay.
I'll have to have you come on my podcast,
Yeah.
though.
I'd love to. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You're just a lovely human.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So are you.
Yeah, thank
This
you.
has been such a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, we'll put your social media and stuff in the show notes if people want to go see what you're about.
Cool beans.
And yeah, if you enjoyed the episode, share it with somebody. And we'll see you next week. This has been episode 83 with Whitney Scott.